Conflict Desert Storm puts you in charge of the best known and most feared special operations forces in the world, the elite British SAS or the US Delta Force squads. On the morning of the 2nd of August 1990, 300,000 Iraqi troops invaded Kuwait, an action that would culminate in the Gulf War. After diplomatic efforts failed, the opposing coalition forces responded by preparing offensive operations, codenamed Desert Storm. Your task is to take your elite Special Forces unit and infiltrate enemy territory to neutralise key targets. Your squad consists of a dedicated leader, a heavy weapons and demolitions expert, an infiltration and electronics specialist, and a deadly sniper. The action takes place in a series of large, detailed environments, filled with neat effects like smoke, heat haze and shadows. There's seamless movement between indoor and outdoor locations and a heap of land and air vehicles to play with. And you're going to need every ounce of skill and cunning if you're going to take down the impressive enemy AI. Scooby-Doo is coming to PS2. Freddy and the girls have been kidnapped, and it's up to the fearless Great Dane to search for his lost friends, exploring 12 beautifully rendered levels within 4 worlds, all of them bearing the classic Scooby-Doo atmosphere. There are 20 traditional Scooby-Doo monsters to run away from, along with a mystery packed with puzzling clues, wacky plans and Scooby snacks. Power-ups unlock secret areas and bonus DVD features, adding to the replay value. And you even get some of the voice talent from the original cast. And the added icing on the cake? No Scrappy-Doo. Welcome to Gumball 3000. In a real-life version of the Cannonball Run, every year a collection of the craziest people in the world gather to take part in a road race covering 3,000 miles in 5 days. It's attracted a host of celebrities and more rock and roll antics than the film that inspired it. And now it's your turn. Take any route you can to get from checkpoint to checkpoint in the shortest possible time. There are 14 point-to-point tracks across 7 visually stunning environments, with over 20 accurately modelled supercars and wacky racers, each with their own individual characteristics and handling. Break speed limits, evade roadblocks and escape the Gumball Police Squad in your quest to become the Gumball 3000 champion. Other game modes include the ubiquitous time trial, as well as a 2-player mode that allows head-to-head racing, or the chance to play as the Gumball Squad and nick your mates.
Let's bring him in.
UFC Throwdown brings real fighting and real fighters to PS2.
Let's get it on, guys!
There are 28 real UFC fighters to take into the ring, including the current UFC champions and the addition of Mario Yamazaki as a second referee. And there are 3 arenas in which to strut your stuff. There's a complex range of offensive and defensive strategies, with the option to string together almost limitless combos and exploit the fighting technique that most suits your personal style. The extensive career mode allows you to create your own fighter and train him up on his way to the Ultimate Fighting Championship, while the tournament mode lets you choose between 16 or 8 players. And with the special effects and visuals to carry it all off, it looks like this is going to be one hell of a fight. Circus Maximus Chariot Wars is a brutal mix of racing and combat set during the height of Imperial Rome. The greatest champions from the furthest reaches of the Empire gather to compete in the Great Circus and receive recognition from the Emperor himself. You start in the distant lands of the Empire, competing through 7 environments and 19 bloody tracks in order to reach the Circus Maximus of Rome. Fight through the sands of Alexandria, the northern reaches of Britannia, or the cold, harsh lands of Germania. Fighting and driving are equally important, and each team has a warrior whose job it is to protect the driver during the race. You can choose whether you wish to control just the chariot team or let the AI do half the work. You can even opt to have two-man teams with up to 4 players for some serious co-op racing. There are 22 unique characters to choose from and hundreds of driver, warrior, horse and chariot combinations, so there's plenty to see and do. Can you think of a better way to earn your denarii?
As Colin McRae, you're continually asking yourself one question. Is it the end? Is it a moment of glory? Will the axle hold? Or will your owners be screaming at you? And as soon as it's over, you ask yourself, Rally 3. It's what lies ahead.
Rage has taken up the challenge to fill a gaping hole in the sports game market. So now you no longer need to fret and worry over the absence of aggressive inline skating games in your life. Now you have rolling. Welcome to Tony Hawk on rollerblades.
Gonna call all the shots for the notes and the nods because I wanna.
There are over 300 motion captured tricks with a special photo shoot mode where you can show them off to photographers for fame and sponsorship. And there are currently 18 recognisable pros to choose between, as well as the chance to make your own skatepark star. There are 14 levels to grind through, 10 artificial urban areas and 4 real-life skateparks, including Liverpool's own Rampworks skatepark. Rolling is still in the early stages of development, and we can expect to see richer backgrounds, fancy effects and plenty more by the time it glides onto the shelves towards the end of the year. With such a glut of rallying games coming to PS2, any mud-spattered racer is going to have his work cut out to stay ahead of the pack. So what has Rally Championship got that sets it apart? First off, the style of play is much more arcade-orientated than many of its competitors. The control is simple, and you can get into the racing very easily. And you get everything here that a racing game should have, although sadly there's really nothing that you wouldn't expect. There are 5 classes of cars to choose from, with the lineup containing a few unusual choices amongst the usual suspects, and all of them are looking particularly good this time out. Unusually for a rally game, the career mode requires you to purchase your own car and then win cash for better ones, in a similar way to Gran Turismo. To start your international career, you'll first have to earn some cash in local rallies. So, starting from such glorious settings as Scotland, Wales and the Isle of Man, you can then step out to more exotic locations like the US, Arctic and Kenya. Or, for those without the patience for all that build-up, there are the usual quick race and arcade modes, as well as the entertaining multiplayer options. The graphics are beautifully smooth, with some nice visual effects and a real sensation of speed all the way. And the tracks seem to have been designed with speed in mind, since some of them hardly require you to touch the brake at all. If you like your rallies quick and dirty, or need a bit more depth to the career mode, then Rally Championship might just be the rally game for you. Activision's Race of Champions is a rallying extravaganza based on the Michelin Race of Champions, an end-of-season rally event held annually on Gran Canaria in the Canary Islands. This is your chance to compete among world-class rally drivers for the prestigious Champion of Champions crown by mastering the roads, deserts and mountains of this exciting tour. There are 12 stunning levels in all, including the authentic tracks and stages, with plenty of thrills and spills to test your mettle. And your competition is the best of the best. You'll be up against over 30 real-world drivers, with such stars as DJ Ariol of France, Armin Schwartz from Germany, and the Finnish rally legend Tommi Mäkinen. There are 24 licensed cars to put through their paces, including rally monsters from the likes of Mitsubishi, Ford, Audi, Citroën, Peugeot, Toyota and Porsche. And with the powerful simulation capabilities of the Dyne Motorsports technology designed by the Climax Group, you can experience ultra-realistic motion and collision responses. Do you have what it takes to master the cars, beat the competition and claim the Champion of Champions crown? You'll have to wait for the release of Race of Champions to find out. In 1982, John Carpenter released his horror classic, The Thing, and now Computer Artworks are finally making the game it deserved. And this single-player survival horror adventure definitely lives up to its namesake.
Just touched down outside U.S. Outpost 31. No contact with the crew in more than 3 months. We thought it was just a down transmitter, but when we saw the camp from the air, it was obvious there was no one left.
The action starts where the movie left off, soon after the strange, unexplained deaths of an American scientific expedition on a base in the Antarctic. A Norwegian and US military joint effort arrive at the base to investigate the mysterious scene. From there, things begin to go downhill fast. The game does a very good job of invoking the film's qualities of fear, suspense, and unbridled paranoia.
Once you get infected, it becomes a perfect imitation of you.
And with the thing able to pass itself off as any one of your colleagues, things soon get out of hand.
They're afraid. We were lied to about this mission and they know it. Or do they think I lied to them?
You are accompanied by a supporting cast of engineers, medics, and soldiers whom you can control and organise to an extent, but you have to carefully control their levels of trust and fear in order to keep them loyal. If they suspect you've been infected, then you're going to have to prove yourself quickly before they start trouble. And equally, you have to watch out for any of your squad behaving in a suspicious manner and deal with it appropriately.
But I'm not sure which ones are human.
The real-time lighting effects and set camera angles enhance the tension and fear, although you have the option to switch to a third-person perspective for the action sequences. You can also choose between auto fire aim and manual aim with a lock-on function. The thing blends actions, puzzles, horror and human interaction perfectly, evoking an unhealthy sensation of isolation and fear as it goes. It's got all the atmosphere of classic horror survival games, with the added paranoia induced by the management of your team.
You're a smart man, Captain Blake. I'd like to get inside that head of yours.
I'm only asking you to trust me.
This game has not yet been rated.
You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this, or you can get with that. I think you can get with this, cause this is where it's at. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this, or you can get with that. I think you can get with this, cause this is kind of that.
New from the people who brought you Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX comes Aggressive Inline. This rollerblading extravaganza uses the next generation graphics engine found in Dave Mirra 2 and combines it with a new physics and gameplay system to bring you something just a bit different. Nine of the top pro skaters are featured, including Shane Yost and Chris Edwards, who contributed to the motion capturing as well. The character models move well and are nicely detailed and feature dynamic hair and clothing. And the graphics are enhanced with a dynamic lighting engine, particle effects and the new Vertex shader. There are 9 huge levels packed full of rails, ramps, pipes and surprises, and there are between 30 and 60 objectives and a dozen or so cinematic events per level, so there's always plenty to see and do. But if you still want more, then you can make use of the level editor included and make some parts of your own. new arcade-style trick system provides you with a vast array of over-the-top tricks. Some new moves particularly worthy of mention are the cess slide, which lets you link to 4 different manuals and create huge combos, and the bail, which can help avoid disaster by allowing you to land on your feet instead of your face after a botched trick attempt. The context-sensitive action button lets you perform vaults, horizontal and vertical spins, skitches and bails, as well as being your means of communicating with the various bystanders in order to pick up new challenges.
You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this, or you can get with that.
Add to that a dynamic attribute system that lets your character evolve depending upon how you play the game, and aggressive inline is shaping up to be one great game.
Engine number 9 on the New York Transit line. If my train goes off the track, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Back on the scene, crispy and clean. You can try, but don't work 'cause you can't intervene. We be the outcast, down for the settle. Won't play rock, won't play the double. Open the door, you best believe we're sliding through it swift.
Kingdom Hearts is the result of an unlikely alliance between Squaresoft and the Disney Corporation. Assuredly a strange combination, but can the two mix without compromising either style? Thankfully, the answer seems to be yes, and the result is a well-balanced and most impressive game. Whilst it's clearly aimed at a younger audience, the high-quality levels appeal to older players as well, even if the Final Fantasy characters have suffered a little cutesification. The story follows the exploits of a boy named Sora, who begins an adventure with Donald Duck and Goofy in a quest to restore King Mickey to his throne and defeat the evil Heartless. And you can expect to recognise many stars from both canons everywhere you go. The cast list includes Hercules, Hades, Aladdin, Pinocchio, Tarzan, Cinderella's fairy godmother, the Cheshire Cat, Alice, the White Rabbit, and many more from the Disney Labs. Along with Squall, Tidus, Leon, Wakka, Cloud, Sid, and other favourites from the Final Fantasies. Square have also changed their style a little to suit the lighter mood. Fights are in real time rather than traditional turn-based systems. And a health bar replaces the usual hit point system, making the gameplay smoother. You can even summon various characters to help you in battle, including Simba, the Genie, Musha, Dumbo, Tinkerbell, and the unlikely Bambi. Just exactly how Bambi helps is a mystery, however. Kingdom Hearts looks fantastic with some awesome animations and a great atmosphere, but will it be too cutesy to bear? It does seem to carry a patina of ultra niceness, but if you can stomach that, then there looks to be an excellent game shaping up underneath. Sometimes, just sometimes, there comes along a game that has it all, and Medal of Honor Frontline is indeed one of those games. But this is more than just a game. This pushes PS2 to the limits, with beautiful visuals, awesome sounds, and perfectly intuitive controls. From the very start, you're thrown into the heart of the action, amongst the D-Day landings. The atmosphere is amazing, with sounds, visuals, and sheer adrenaline-pumping terror reaching fever pitch as you join in with hundreds of others, storming the beaches amongst a hail of gunfire and artillery bombardment. There's no sense of being an indestructible hero here. The opportunities for an unsung death are evident all around you. Truly terrifying and truly exhilarating. The AI only adds to the sense of drama, with enemy soldiers diving for cover, searching out suspicious sounds and laying down suppressive fire. They'll use their dead allies as shields and rush to man unoccupied sentry guns. On the other hand, you can also catch them off guard, or even suffering at the hands of some courageous local. But the AI also works for you. This is no solo run into the heart of enemy territory. Here you have a team of friends with you, shouting instructions, providing covering fire, and coming to your aid when things get really messy. You really feel like part of a team. The scenery, sounds, and astounding attention to detail create an awesome atmosphere, filling you with a sense of despair and pointlessness, along with the exhilaration of making a difference. Add to that some extremely satisfying weapons and the panic-inducing inability to save anywhere, and you have an experience second to none. There may be no multiplayer options, but if that's what it takes to create a single-player game as impressive as Medal of Honor Frontline, then we're prepared to let that one slide. Just let yourself get caught up in the emotionally charged, vibrantly chaotic experience of World War II, and thank God that you didn't actually have to be there for real.
I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and bless us all beseech the blessings of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking.
Hairpin left. 4 left. 4
V-Rally
right.
3 joins the impressive lineup of rallying games this month. But what's it got that sets it apart from the pack? Like Colin McRae and Toca Race Driver, a big new feature is the immersive career mode. You begin by creating your character from scratch, right down to the mugshot of your driving license. And then it's off to your office where you can play with the various options, including your email.
200. 3 right.
The email is the heart of the career mode, providing you with offers, contracts, team comments, and if you deserve it, your contract termination notice. Having selected a team and proven your worth, it's into the first season and your first chance to tune up your new car. The problem now is that you spend ages stuck with low-powered cars until you have a chance to get something useful. However, once you've got yourself a satisfying set of wheels, you'll soon discover that the handling is gorgeous. But you can't just hammer away like a buffoon this time out. This time you'll need to put a bit more thought into the way you take on corners, with large stretches of track requiring more than a little skill to master. Sadly, there are only 6 countries to drive through, although each country has 4 or 5 stages, and they're all very well designed and exciting to play through. The driving is generally superb, although there are a few quirks that spoil it a little. In the air, the car physics just aren't right, and it takes ages to accelerate, so that it's often quicker to reset the race than try and turn your car around after a serious spin. Other downers include cranky crashes, no simultaneous multiplayer, missing WRC drivers, and dynamics that may alienate players of the previous versions of the game. So V-Rally 3 isn't an unqualified success. However, everything it does extremely well. Just look at that scenery.
I wake up thinking about the game. This is my life.
David Beckham is the name to have when promoting a new footy game. It just seems a bit of a shame that his is about the only name Rage actually managed to get for David Beckham Soccer. Other players have to put up with carefully misspelled names, and even Arsenal gets labelled as Highbury. On the plus side, our man David does manage to resemble himself quite successfully, and the various stadia are nice and recognisable, but that's about as far as it goes. The game itself is just awkward and unsatisfying. The AI is way off, with the computer-controlled players being absolutely anywhere but where you want them to be. It pretty much kills off the single-player mode when you can't even manage a flowing passing game. With such a gaping failure in the main game, it's hardly worth looking at the other modes, but there are some bizarre options here that are worth examining. Survival mode challenges you to beat consecutive teams, whilst Beat Brazil provides you with a series of increasingly incompetent teams to pit you against. Go on, guess. You can also recreate classic games of the past, although it just doesn't seem quite right watching misspelled heroes put away goals for misnamed teams. On a more authentic note, the commentary is well worth listening to, with contributions from Jonathan Pierce and Ron Atkinson, who manage a sterling job. But since they don't have much to comment on, they're facing a significant uphill struggle.
Where were the defenders? Let's get on with the match.
All in all, David Beckham Soccer is rather just a poor man's version of FIFA, but for the same price. So you might as well buy that. It's not worth the pain, just for the benefit of the name on the box. It certainly isn't up to his usual standards. The veterans of computer violence may well remember a classic game that brought chopping people's heads off into the homes and hearts of gamers everywhere. Now Barbarian is returning to take the stage once more, bringing something just a little different to the fighting game genre. The single-player mode isn't just your usual 3-round, 8-tier contest that every other fighting game seems to ascribe to, although the option is there if that's what you really want. Instead, you get a huge range of sycophantic characters to choose from, and the intriguing quest mode. This sees you killing all manner of interesting opponents in strange contests, such as tests of survival, protection games, and timed battles. The fighting itself is controlled in the usual manner. Your moves include light punches, strong punches, blocks and magical attacks, with runes to be found in various barrels, offering the chance to engage in more impressive attacks. The levels are very complex, with superb detail and massive sprawling multi-storey arenas, bedecked with collapsing walls and floors. This can seriously affect your tactics and makes running away a viable option if the fighting suddenly becomes a little too intense. Sadly for the single-player mode, the AI is laughable, with simple tactics being enough to take you from start to finish, without ever having to resort to anything that could actually be considered cunning. But neatly circumventing this flaw, and surely Barbarian's biggest draw, is the multiplayer mode. Here you can have 4 players brawling away in one arena simultaneously. It's enormous fun, and the carnage comes guaranteed. Barbarian is fun enough, but lacks the technical depth of traditional fighters like Virtua Fighter 4 or Tekken 4. The single-player quest mode is interesting, but the dumb AI is disappointing. However, the multiplayer mode is well worth a go. Find football simulations like FIFA, ISS and Pro Evolution Soccer just too complicated and dull? Well, this could be just the breath of fresh air you're looking for. Red Card Soccer is quick, violent and awesome fun to play.
Outside the box. It's clawed away by the keeper.
In an attempt to outrage the soccer community, there's a strong reliance on aggression rather than any form of footballing skill. Foul play is actively encouraged, with controls like stomp, turbo and aggressive tackle. But despite this penchant for the vicious, it's virtually impossible to get a yellow card, and to get a red card would require nothing short of a massacre.
Play for a corner kick. Headed clear. Shoots. Safe handling by the goalkeeper.
These footballing atrocities change the nature of the game significantly, speeding up the action and making it a lot of fun. Aggressive tackles become flagrant cases of assault, and you're encouraged to take shots at goal from any distance. Even the most incompetent player can manage to rack up some impressive scorelines.
And the stadium erupts in applause.
Obviously there are flaws to such gameplay. It's really annoying to pull off an impressive run, only to get flattered by the opposition, although it's usually possible to pass it out to safety if you're paying attention. And try a powering super kick, triggering a Matrix-like slow-mo effect and unleashing a shot powerful enough to take the keeper backwards into the goal.
He launches a hopeful ball, blocked by the keeper. Chested down. Moving rapidly up the middle.
The comedy potential for two-player matches is immense, although players of more serious football simulations will probably be horrified by such behaviour. On the other hand, everyone else will probably find it satisfyingly easy to play and a barrel of fun.
The crosskeeper gathers with ease. Fires! Gives him the cold shoulder. Goal! He found the gap. England hammer another goal in. And taken away by the defender.
Red Card Soccer is arcade football, stupid football, but immediately playable football, without all the dull intricacies of simulation games. It's the sort of football game that may well appeal to those who aren't fans of the details of the game, but just fancy a quick and explosive kick around. Overdrive raises a couple of questions right from the word go. YTD instead of Test Drive. It's presumably an attempt to distance itself from the less than notable PS1 series. And since overdrive is used for cruising rather than racing, what exactly are we expecting to see here? Overall, the game's not actually bad. It is, however, terribly derivative, with nothing really new to show for itself. The courses are okay, including a mix of linear routes and circuits. However, the navigation symbols are somewhat reminiscent of Burnout, and smoking checkpoints a very Smuggler's Run. The cars are the standard stock of any racing game, with the only oddities being those we saw in GT2, and the attitude is straight from the Fast and the Furious. Even the codec-based mission screens from the story mode are very Metal Gear Solid. The models are good though, with a solid presence and reasonably convincing appearance, coupled with noticeably individual characteristics and a nice paint shop option. However, there's no damage model, so the crashes are pretty uninspiring, but that's probably for the best considering the basic physics and patchy collision detection. Story mode doesn't do much to hold your interest, but at least you can skip through it quite easily in order to get to the boss contests, drag races, and the chance to unlock more tracks, races and cars. The civilian traffic is also on the disappointing side. Their positions don't vary, so it's possible to learn their locations whilst learning your route, making things a little easy. And the cop chases are hardly worth noting, as they seem to make so little difference to your race. TD Overdrive is an okay experience, rarely offensive, but nothing really inspiring. There are plenty of other racing games that do the same thing, and more besides. The Tour de France can be a grueling, physically draining, mentally shattering task, much like the real thing. Which isn't to say it's necessarily a bad thing, just that this isn't going to be a ride in the park. Even the practice mode can be very disheartening, setting a series of horrendously difficult tests, which make just reading the manual seem a much more tempting idea. And the controls are simple enough, consisting of your basic steering and brakes, along with the option to worry about your gears if you're really masochistic. But the real challenge is managing your energy reserves, making enough effort to stay in the running while still having enough left to make a dash for it when it really counts. The major trick here is slipstreaming. Get behind another cyclist and the lines behind him turn green. This indicates success and a chance to recover your energy. If you can manage to do this whilst coasting with a pack, then you'll have the reserves you need to make the break and push ahead to the next pack. The problem with staying amongst the crowd is the poor collision detection. Cycling may be a competitive sport, but it's a bit unfair to go spinning out of control without even touching the barriers, or after the opposition have just cycled straight through you. You'll have to plan your route carefully to determine where to make the most of your energy and when to use the handy water bottle to replenish your strength. The attraction of the Tour de France, apart from the pretty scenery, is much more tactical than thrilling. It can be very satisfying when you get it right, but it could never really be called exciting or even perhaps fun.
The setting for the magnificent Belgian Grand Prix. Located approximately 50 kilometers north of Liège, near the town of Spa.
Yes, another Formula One game. We know we're in for something innovative and exciting with EA's latest racer. Or not, since they're all the same. As usual, F1 2002 is mediocre at best. And if you own last year's version, then there's little point in buying this one. So what's new this time? Well, obviously you get all the latest stats and figures, including the addition of the Toyota team and the loss of Prost, although the generic chassis on show here bears little resemblance to the actual cars. The graphics have received their annual overhaul as well, and provide some lovely motion blur on the curbs and a striking sensation of speed, but the gameplay still manages to be disappointingly juddery. You also get a new slipstreaming element, which allows you to run up behind a competitor, watch the bar fill up and enjoy the free ride. This is all well and good, but the real problems start to appear when we take a look at the handling. Whilst getting on and off the throttle affects your line, as it should, the flawed steering reacts at a preset speed rather than with the urgency of your stick movements, making it very hard to exploit. Just try flicking the wheel to full lock and back on straight, and the car barely responds, but hold it at a few degrees for several seconds and you'll be head-on into the pit wall. Not realistic and not fun.
You've collided with Mark Webber.
So the question still remains, how many times can we be expected to buy the same game, especially one with an underperforming engine and catastrophic handling problems? If you want an F1 simulator, then stick with the 2001 Sony game, or wait to see what their inevitable 2002 update looks like.
THQ.
Hey there, I'm Britney Spears. My world tour is starting soon, so I'm holding auditions around the country to find the best dancers. Since I spend so much time on the road with my dancers, they're like my family. So if you think you've got what it takes, let's see what you can do.
The Princess of Pop is springing into action on PS2 with her own rhythm action experience. Britney Spears is best known for looking good but lacking substance. That and selling merchandise. And in keeping with all of that, here's Britney's dance beat. The first big shock was to find that it's actually not a bad game. Not bad at all. It's a simple yet playable press-along in the style of Buster Groove, with an easy playing style and impressive graphics. The various dancers look good, move very fluidly, and have hundreds of moves to keep things interesting. There's even a plot. It seems that Britney is in search of dancers for her upcoming tour, and you're up for an audition. You can choose your dancer, although you'll have to earn Britney before you can play as her. The biggest flaw in the whole thing is the range of tunes. All the music is from Britney, obviously, but there are only 5 tunes to choose between. By the time you've heard Baby One More Time, Overprotected, Stronger, I'm a Slave for You and Oops, I Did It Again a dozen times each, you might just fancy something that breaks. Fortunately, each of the tracks comes with a wide variety of well-choreographed sequences, so it's not quite as limited as all that, but still. Britney fans will be overjoyed to hear that the extras you can earn consist of exclusive videos, interviews, behind-the-scenes footage and concerts, including 360-degree immersive video that lets you control the camera. And don't miss out on the awesome 2-player battle, which is great fun, as with most rhythm action games. You don't need to be a fan to appreciate Britney's dance beat, but it definitely helps. It's short, sweet and inoffensive, much like Britney herself.
Stronger than yesterday. It's nothing.
is the Q dome. To enter the dome, you must have the right path.
Grandeur Extreme is the third instalment in the series, but the name does make you wonder what's so extreme about it. You play Evan, a novice Earth Mage, who has landed the job of investigating natural disasters called elemental overdrives. He has a team of friends to help out, each with their own strengths and weaknesses of course, and he may choose any three to accompany him on a particular mission. The action is centred on a town which provides you with all the materials you need, along with being the only place in the game where you can save. That said, some of the larger quest areas include geo points, where Evan can open a portal back to town. Once out in the field, the extreme gauge in the lower right corner of the screen indicates the presence of enemies and treasure, and you'll find that if you walk rather than run everywhere, then you'll be much more likely to win initiative in the battles. The battle system is definitely the star of the show. The initiative point gauge is now circular, but it functions just as in previous Grandia games. Icons represent your party and your enemies, moving around the gauge, alerting you to who will be attacking next. On the downside, the character models don't do anything to express their emotions, so whilst certain dialogue sequences feature voices, you'll usually have to watch the faces in the dialogue boxes to get a feel for their emotions. If you can overlook these shortfallings and concentrate on exploring and the excellent fight sequences, then Grandia Extreme could well be the game for you. Sony's Wild West RPG is back for another go, this time on PS2 and with cel-shaded graphics. Wild Arms Advanced Third may be similar to the previous incarnations in many ways, but this is no bad thing, and there's still plenty new to look at. The game opens with an incident on a train, following which you get to play through an introductory prelude for each of the four main characters. Here, the events of the previous days are detailed, along with the chance to take them each through some fighting and get the hang of their battle styles. After the four prologues, the game starts properly. Fans of the series will surely recognise many elements, right down to the Western soundtrack. And the action doesn't just consist of combat sequences, you also get a decent blend of traps, puzzles and role-playing events, in nice proportion to keep things interesting. Whilst exploring, you're alerted to the presence of enemies by an exclamation mark. You can avoid up to 10 fights by tapping X, however, for every fight you complete, that limit increases by 1. Once in a fight sequence, you'll recognise the usual mix of spells and 6 shooters, although character positioning is now a factor. You also have the medium system, which allows the equipping of powerful elemental forces, and the arms system, which is you use the arms device of the previous games to give your various mediums new powers. There's also a new communication system called the Approach to Selected Keywords, or ASK system. This adds interactive elements into the game's dialogue. Although Wild Arms Advanced Third bears many resemblances to its predecessors, that's hardly a bad thing, and the new cel shading and other innovations look set to make it a game to watch out for. Swinging in from his latest movie comes the web-slinging, wall-crawling superhero of New York City. Spider-Man is here in his new snazzy outfit, fighting the dastardly Green Goblin, but generally just boring us to death. Sadly, Spidey's crime-fighting antics fail to inspire, for the most part being dull, awkward and repetitive. The action primarily consists of entering room after room and fighting off half a dozen goons, whilst one of them shoots you from range, over and over again. The scenery is nice enough, with plenty of interesting architecture, a beautiful cityscape and some great character models, but the action just doesn't really vary.
Can I cut in?
And the camera gets confused when you start scrambling over the walls and ceiling, although you do at least get the option to control it yourself, or automatically track an opponent. There's a strong sense of incompletion. The sound is poor and the dialogue trite.
Can't let anything stop me. I have to find a way to shut off the power so I can get through.
Guards and bodies evaporate once you've dealt with them, and returning from cutscenes can be disorientating. Outside in the city, things look great, with the opportunity to crawl all over the skyscrapers. Although web swinging is a much quicker method of travel, to the extent that it's often quicker to swing off a building and then back onto it at a different place, rather than scrambling across its surface. You don't even have to swing from buildings. Instead, you can just attach your web fluid to an imaginary glass ceiling in the sky. The controls are frustratingly vague, making it very annoying to complete objectives requiring any degree of precision, and turning quickly is tough at the best of times.
Help! What's going on?
Although the story is just an excuse to kick the bejesus out of lots of strange guys in weird costumes, there are some entertaining combos to let you do this, and more to collect along the way. Spider-Man isn't a complete disaster, but it sure is a big disappointment. The action's repetitive and the controls and camera lead to lots of frustrating failures. It could have been so much better. The giant, sleek mechs of Armored Core are back for the third in the series, and this time we finally get that long-awaited online action. Armored Core has always walked the fine line between the fast-paced, frenetic action of an arcade game and the component-customizing, systems monitoring aspects of the mechanoid combat sims, and no more so than this time. The story picks up well after the events of Armored Core 2, with the focus shifting away from Mars and back to Earth. Again, you take on the role of a Raven, a hired mercenary doing the dirty work for the corporations and governments that want to keep their hands clean. The missions you accept dictate how the plot unfolds, and you'll soon begin to unearth sinister conspiracies and other untoward behaviour. Many elements of the game are going to be familiar to fans of the series, but new features include the implementation of the analog stick to assist movement, as well as the chance to be joined by consorts, satellite soldiers who join you in battle but fight independently. You can also drop weaponry to save carrying empty missile pods when you could do with the extra speed. On top of that, you get over 200 new parts with which to customise your mechs, along with the chance to import more from previous PS2 Armored Core titles, and the long-awaited opportunity to battle it out online. It's the perfect blend of action and strategy, now with analog movement and online play. Armored Core 3 is a great return for the series, and giant mech combat has never been so much fun.
バーン、あっと前に出した。セーフティーなプレー。届くか。ラーソン。中西さん、今日の見どころを一言でお願いします。
両チームとも縦に速い選手が多いので。
前、おっと打ってきた。ロングスローできた。右へ。タイムシュート、スロー VTR でご覧いただいております。
ここはしっかりつながないと。
ファーディナンド、くさびに入って
雨が効いてます。
放った。来た来た来た来た来た来た。イングランド。
ボールがすごいことになってますよ。
The undoubted star of the PS2's Platinum lineup is the brilliant Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec. It's still the best looking game on PS2, still the best racing game you can get, and still has by far the best range of tracks and cars. And now it's unmissable value at £20. For those after the ultimate arcade thrill, GT3 can be a little lacking, but in every other way, this is an unmissable game. Buy it because, face facts, your PS2 software collection is incomplete without GT3. Months ago, we gave this game 9 out of 10 and said it was the best version of the best Res Evil yet. Now it's available for only £20. The plot is centred on Claire Redfield. Having survived the horrific onslaught in Raccoon City, as seen in Resident Evil 2, she is now in Europe. Contamination detected. Following some new clues regarding the whereabouts of her missing brother Chris and the insidious activities of the Umbrella Corporation. Once inside their remote lab, she discovers that her terrifying ordeal is far from over. She is soon captured and sent to an isolated prison on a desolate island. It's here that she must find Chris, hero of the original game, and seek the truth behind the dreaded Umbrella biotoxins. This revised version provides several improvements over the original Dreamcast version. The storylines of numerous characters have been reworked, particularly the treacherous Albert Wesker, who joined the bad guys in the first Resident Evil game. His story no longer leaves things up in the air, and numerous other loose ends are tied up. You'll also be pleased to hear that there has been some serious consideration given to the viewing angles provided in the game. One of the most recognisable features of the Resident Evil series is its dramatic fixed camera angles. But these views have been known to cause all manner of problems when you get into a fight on the edge of a scene. So in this version, they have thought long and hard about how to best show the action. You'll be treated to new views, panning across, following your character, or nerve-wracking moments when Claire finds herself wandering off into the distance. The game's creator, Shinji Mikami, is a big fan of the dramatic camera angles that characterise these games, believing they create tension, so you'll still find plenty of static shots. More plot, more visuals and more Resident Evil. What more could you possibly get for 20 quid?
It's time to get crazy. That's right, we got crazy cool music and crazy cool driving when you push the start button. So come on, let's go. Crazy Taxi. Hey, it's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go.
One of the most popular games produced by Sega for their Dreamcast console was Crazy Taxi. And now, thanks to Sega's decision to support PS2, this popular title is now available for the attractive sum of 20 quid.
That was too dangerous! Careful!
The objectives are very straightforward. Get your taxi, find a passenger, and then bomb across the city to your drop point. You have a choice of 4 cabbies to put through their paces, each with their requisite strengths and weaknesses. Then, once you're up and running, you can try to master some of the nifty moves to help take these seconds off your journey time.
BD Joe!
Yeah, we're gonna have some fun!
Hey, it's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go!
Once you get started, it becomes very addictive, spicing up the action with a whole series of special moves you can pull off to get that little bit quicker. If that's not enough, then there are also a number of sub-games and challenges to break up the flow, along with a selection of crazy secret vehicles and cheat modes to keep you playing again and again. Crazy Drift assists power sliding around corners, Crazy Dash will help you get that extra burst of speed, and Crazy Jumps get you soaring over the less reckless motorists. Learn to combine these in interesting ways, and you'll soon be streets ahead of the competition.
Stop driving, huh? Okay, we're gonna fly.
Undeniably good fun, Crazy Taxi deserves a place in everyone's gaming collection. Still one of the best single-player shooters available on PS2, Red Faction is an absolute steal at the platinum price of £20. Volition's Mars-based first-person shooter includes one major feature that makes it stand out amongst its rivals, the much-hyped GeoMod engine. This feature allows the damage from your weapons to actually reshape the landscape as you fire at it. The capability to redesign the scenery changes the gameplay considerably. It's now possible to forget about finding keys to open doors and just go through the wall instead. And if a really hard opponent is foolish enough to cross a weak bridge, well, they get everything they deserve. You take on the role of Parker, a miner working deep beneath the surface of Mars, toiling away for the giant Ultor Corporation. Conditions are inhuman and a terrible plague is sweeping through the workers' ranks, so it's unsurprising when rebellion erupts.
You should see the research center in the cavern ahead.
It isn't long before you're contacted over the radio by a man named Hendrix, who guides you to Red Faction, the rebel group headed by EOS. His messages continue through the game, setting objectives as you go.
Partner, I want you to grab someone. I need you to go into admin and kidnap Griffin, Ultra's deputy administrator.
The setting also provides the perfect excuse to leave lots of powerful weaponry and vehicles just lying around for party to find, along with offering some nice scenery amongst the mines, and then the corridors of the corporate holdings and even onto satellites orbiting far above. Sadly, nothing is perfect, and there are a few flaws to be found. The artificial intelligence leaves something to be desired, with enemies reacting to your presence even when you're well hidden or disguised, except in the few places where stealth is actually expected of you. So all in all, a very impressive game with a nice story, some interesting ideas and an exciting range of weapons and vehicles. But don't expect the enemy to behave very realistically and be ready to save the game regularly or things could soon get very frustrating. Formula 1 2001 has finally gone platinum. Easily the best Formula 1 game we've ever played. This has everything you could possibly ask for.
Light 1 is lit! Only one light to go! Yes, and the lights go out, and it's go, go, go!
As you would hope, the cars behave in exactly the way you'd expect. Now you can, with a bit of skill, bring your car gliding around those corners, rather than just throwing it into a spin that leaves you staring at the oncoming pack. There are all sorts of nice touches that have been included in the control system.
We have the first light lit! The four's lit, we're almost there!
There's a very realistic understeer heading into downhill corners, frequent but not fatal rear wheel breakaways, and a great feeling that you do actually have 800 horsepower at your fingertips that a lot of F1 games miss.
You can't keep doing this.
And the sun is shining all around the circuit.
Other touches, such as the need to start from neutral when the car stalls, and the slight lag after unpausing the game to give you the chance to prepare, are all indicative of the attention to detail that makes this game so special. What's more, the crashes can be amazing. Nudging another car causes damage to both cars, leaving parts strewn across the roadway. But plough headlong into the fence and your car will disintegrate into 1,000 pieces, scattering all over the place. That's worth watching the replays for, if nothing else. But be careful, if you keep knocking chunks out of your car, then don't be surprised when the handling deteriorates to the point of being impossible to manage. So, if you're into all the excitement of Formula 1 and want all the thrills and spills of the race, accompanied by some glorious graphics and addictive gameplay, then Formula 1 2001 could be just the experience you're looking for.
but the Trade Federation is closing in fast.
Music to my ears.
More dropships coming in by the mountain.
Starfighter is set alongside the events of the Phantom Menace. You play as 3 different characters, whose storylines gradually come together as the game progresses. This is great in theory, but switching between characters every couple of missions means that you don't really begin to empathise with any of them. Instead, you just get the feeling that you have no control over the plot, which is less than riveting in the first place. But the chances are that you're not playing this game for the plot. Base combat is what it's all about.
Vary your speed using boost and brake.
Once in the cockpit, you'll find the controls are very easy to get the hang of. The ships are equipped with a helpful targeting system, which makes picking out your targets as easy as joining the dark side. And a quick press of the analog stick will bring you back in line with the horizon when flying planet-based missions.
Man all defenses, prep the transports for evac. Hustle!
Affirmative. Nim, we're reading multiple hostiles approaching from orbit. We've got Nandas, 12 o'clock high.
This is your last fight, Vanna.
The action takes place both in space and skimming over the surface of the planet, and the missions include all manner of escorting, salvaging and general shooting. Sadly, there are only 14 missions, so you'll soon get through them, but then they all consist of repeatedly spinning around and destroying your target before moving on to the next identical ship anyway.
He's getting away! That freighter is almost out of jamming range.
Getting rusty, Vanna? Never should have gone solo, Vanna.
You'll also notice that the scenery is pretty straightforward. Endless star fields or simplistic landscapes are all you get to explore in between the shooting, but this is mainly in an attempt to keep the frame rate up with so many ships exploding all over the place.
Jam all channels.
And as a rule, it usually succeeds, except in the most heated of battles, or in the 2-player mode. This mode has to be unlocked from within the game, and then you'll discover just how slow this game can run. Not recommended.
Go!
How fast can this thing go, Wrench?
Oddly, for a Star Wars game, the whole mood of the films seems to be missing, leaving the game to stand up on its own 2 feet.
Your employment with force.
Terminate? What?
Security consideration.
It doesn't make you feel as forgiving as you have been with other products in the line, and has to impress all on its own.
What's going on here? Call those things off!
I fear I must depart now. Good day.
Why did I let myself...
But that it generally does. It's a lot of fun and it is a genuinely good space combat game, albeit a bit on the short side.
They know we're heading for the cave! There's a blockade set up along the land route to the cave. We can't hold this position any longer! We've got to head to the cave!
It is Res Evil with swords, and it's finally available on the cheap.
Beyond this gate lies the demon world. It's over. We will never be able to save you, Mamoru.
Right from the start, Onimusha's award-winning opening sequence will leave you weak at the knees, as the twisted tale of lethal swordsman Samanosuke Akechi looks more movie-like than anything seen before in a game. Set in feudal Japan, Onimusha provides the freedom to fight with raw combat aggression or strategic military principles. The ability to wipe out your opponent in one stroke by timing your hit just when they're about to strike provides more souls for Samanosuke to hoover up with his handy gauntlet. The element of upgrading your powers lends an RPG feel to the gameplay, and although the emphasis is far more on action, there are still traditional puzzles to get your thinking matter working. When Samanosuke gets stuck in a tight spot, gameplay is handed over to Kaede for a brief time, but with no control as to when the character switch takes place, it's very much a linear feature of the game. The special attacks that generate raging fireballs and colossal tornadoes provide an impressive display of special effects against the scissor-handed ninjas, scorpion crabs, and the terrifying predator-type beast who only materialises for short periods before turning invisible again. The major disappointment with Onimusha is the criminally short amount of gameplay on offer. Aside from searching out an abundance of secret mini sub-games and bonus items, it takes just over 10 hours to complete, which fails to live up to the epic expectations gleaned from the impressive opening sequence of feudal war and carnage. Despite this, Onimusha is still an inspiring title that draws on past glories from the Resident Evil series and throws in some new ideas to provide one of the best action adventures on the PS2.
The time has come, demons! Prepare for the dark ceremony!
Come on!
Time Splitters was perhaps underrated when it came out with the launch of PlayStation 2. While it may not be the game of choice for the single-player experience, when it comes to multiplayer battles it is still very much the top gun. In fact, over 18 months down the road, and it's still very much a PSW favourite, with only its sequel looking to dethrone this superb game. Time Splitters enables you to get to grips with all manner of very strange and mysterious characters, with a chance to unlock tons more should you choose to play through the single-player game. To be honest, it's very much a cosmetic option. There's no actual advantage to choosing some of the game's more bizarre characters. Whoever you choose, you're in for an absolutely brilliant blast, with the option to create and design your own levels, adding to the overall fun. In one-player mode, there is some small nod towards adventuring, with the player charged with the task of picking up some kind of precious item before legging it at speed, guns blazing, to the exit. In addition, there are numerous mini-games and bonuses attached too. For example, one game has you running about punching the heads off zombies in a highly comedic manner. But for the most part, the emphasis in Time Splitters is shooting. Shooting bad guys, lots of them. And then if you get bored in the one-player experience, dip into the mind-blowingly good multiplayer game. Various game modes are on offer, with the chance for the player to take part in both a 2, 3 or 4-player split-screen experience. As you might have gathered by now, Time Splitters is very much a PlayStation 2 classic, the perfect game for multiplayer action, and although quite simplistic if you're playing on your own, it's still great fun. In short, for 20 quid, Time Splitters is a massive bargain.
You don't know anything about power.
Get ready, fun!
The launch of PlayStation 2 saw the gamers go crazy for Namco's Tekken Tag tournament, which is rather odd, as the game turned out to be something of a damp squib, offering very little over previous incarnations other than more characters and tidier graphics.
This is for you.
Why don't we go kick it alone for a while?
It's all the more galling when you consider the sheer power of the game's alternative, Dead or Alive 2. While it may lack the charisma and the franchise power of its competitor, there was never any doubt as to which was the better game.
KO! Winner!
Leave, now. I don't think you commoners can handle it.
Keep your mouth shut!
Tecmo's Dead or Alive games have always been drop-dead gorgeous. In this sequel, they upped the stakes considerably with far more detailed graphics, truly 3D backgrounds, and far superior animation.
No one can stop me now! Get ready, fun!
In fact, let's be honest here, bearing in mind the masses of detail, super smooth animation and a far more developed sense of humour, Dead or Alive wiped the floor with its competitor, yet only managed to sell half as many copies as Tekken Tag. Well, the good news is that the game's out on Platinum at half price. That's right, 20 quid for what remains one of the most intensely enjoyable and accessible fighting games on the market, and still a real looker to boot. And of course, Dead or Alive's unique selling point is still as attractive as ever. The pneumatic female fighters' wobbly bits remain just as laughably implausible as they were the day the game was launched. Combine all this with tag team elements that surpass Tekken's and multi-level fighting arenas that make for some superb set pieces, and you have a hell of a good game. newcomers like Virtua Fighter 4 and the forthcoming Tekken 4, Dead or Alive 2 is definitely a little old school, but its charms remain enticing indeed. It's still the most accessible fighter on the PlayStation 2, still bags of fun, and it's an absolute steal at 20 nicker.
Your history. You're nothing.
At last, you've all started to answer our calls for something a little different, and amongst all the 30-yard scorchers and identical scissor kicks, we've uncovered 3 magical examples of skill, imagination and expert ball control. In third place this month is this slick passing move from Martin Donegan. Having started the move, Culvert then clinically finishes with a rifling shot past the goalie. But it's the deft back heel from Van Nistelrooy that really puts the seal of class on this delightful goal. Second in our illustrious list this month is Hago Hanian with this clever example of ingenuity in a tight spot. Having weaved his way through the defence, he then bewilders the goalie with his quick thinking and invention. The winner this month is Eamon Fire with his gig-zest dribble through the entire opposition defence. Twisting and turning his way through the penalty area, he shows great composure and quick reactions to evade every lunging defender before slamming the ball home with pinpoint precision.
And you ask me about evil? Let me tell you about evil. He is evil. He is evil through time.